students, this is Veena, Assistant Professor in the Department of English, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today, we are going to talk about reading for information transfer. This is the topic which is in your module 4. It specifically talks about how is that you are going to read for information transfer. That is from text to diagram or from diagram to text. What are the ways you can read through the diagrams so that you can convert it into text, or from text you are converting into diagram. So this is the way what we are going to learn today, such that it will help you in catering the needs of developing your content through diagrams as well as the content. So let us get started. Here now, what is information transfer? Information transfer is nothing but we are transferring the information, the message from one entity to the other. That is nothing but information transfer activity involves getting student to put spoken or written text into another form. So, what is that we are going to do in the information transfer? That is the written text, the written document or any spoken writing, we are making the student to put in the form of pictorial representation, diagrammatic representation, such that their knowledge of understanding expands through the diagrams. It is always the visual aid which will create an impact on the others while learning. So to learn more better, sometimes we tend to use diagrams, converting them from the text. That is, the text format is converted into diagrammatical representation such that there is more concentration and interest of the reader to learn it or to acquire that information. Now see, what is that? From the text, we usually tend to convert it into a chart. If a written text is in 4 or 5 paragraphs in a vast way, in long pages, what is that we are going to do? We are going to prepare a chart such that it segregates the events into a stepwise logical order in the chart, such that the information will be clear, authentic and specific. Next comes grids. Grids are the boxes. We tend to make boxes and try to specify information at particular places to hint its speciality, to show that this particular information is very important in this regard. Next comes pictures. That is, it can be your diagrams, it can be any kind of picture which will motivate you to learn that particular text. Next, table or diagram. You're going to use tables, you're going to use diagrams, vice versa. Anyways, so information transfer from text to diagram or diagram to text, it depends on the situation. How is that you're going to use it? In what way that will look more effective and authentic according to that particular text. Sometimes we tend to change from diagram to text, isn't it? Because we want more notes, we want more specific information about that diagram. That's the reason we tend to convert the diagram into the text. So today we are going to talk very clearly about the techniques or the strategies which we tend to use, which we can use such that we can improve our language and also make it more effective and appealing to the others. Now, the idea is that, what is the idea behind the information transfer? Is that learners are helped in understanding the text by means of non-verbal device such as diagram, graph or table. For example, if any student is given a text of 1 or 2 pages, will he be interested in reading? No. If he is given a diagram with a bit of little content, of course, he will first see the diagram and try to understand it. If it is appealing and if he feels that is really useful to him, he tries to read the text below it, such that there is the understanding which will make him to motivate towards learning that particular information. So information transfer is a very, very good technique while you are reading. You can try to make changes in the text and segregate it in the form of a table or a chart or a grid or a picture or any way such that it appeals to your reader. It appeals to the people and make it more worthy and informative. Next, information transfer is ideal for testing and helping comprehension of non-literary discourse. That is, we usually tend to test so that the use of understanding to comprehend, the ability to understand improves. We give a small diagram. For example, in small classes, when you are in a third or fourth, maybe second or third, if you remember, your teachers would give you a small diagram and ask you to write 4 to 5 sentences about it. Isn't it? What is their intention? Their intention is to develop your understanding ability of that picture and replace the sentence. That is, you will be using the language which you know in the form of a sentence such that it is proved that you are able to understand it, that is, you are able to comprehend it and also use the language for the practice. So here you are having two important things you have to notice. One is you will comprehend the diagram. Second thing is you will learn to write in the language. You will try to use your language, whatever you know, and put forward in front of that text. That the sole aim of that exercise was that. In the same way here also we use this text to diagram possibilities not only for just making you comprehend, but also trying to enhance your abilities of comprehending, analyzing and interpreting the text. Then other types of information transfer may include ordering a sequence of picture. For example, if they ask you to draw the life cycle of a frog, or ask you to write about the life cycle of the frog, what is that you are going to do? If you are writing in the form of information, you will be putting them in the point-wise manner, step 1, step 2, step 3, and you will be writing it. But instead of using the word formation or the text type, if you diagram, what is that you are going to do? You are going to segregate the pictures in the logical order. That is, the sequence of the diagrams will be presented. That is the embryo, the egg, embryo, and then larva, then frog. So you're going to show it in the form of stepwise picturization such that the person who is reading it, the person who is trying to understand the life cycle of the frog will be able to grasp it through the pictures. So it is clear to them. So this stage, this is what happens. This stage, what is? So the picturization in the form of logical order can be done. Next, comparing text and pictures. Now, what is that you are going to do? You will keep the text and the picture. You will try to compare. What is more comprehensive? What is that which is more understandable? What is that which is more authentic in rendering the meaning to the reader? Next, completing documents. So, while completion of documents, you may be stuck at a place with lot of information but unable to put it in the logical order. Then you can use the diagrammatical representation. You can segregate them into the points of a flow chart or the tree diagram and make the use of stepwise order of 1, 2, 3, 4 such that there is a clear idea of what you are going to represent in that particular document. So graphical representation, tree diagrams, flow charts, all this stuff will also help you in developing your documentation work. Next comes, these activities require to concentrate on what words, sentences and other language units do in the given text. Now, is it very easy to understand the text and just draw a diagram? No. What are the things you have to focus while changing text to the diagram? That is words. Understand the words in the text. Try to replicate those words in the form of the diagram. Next, sentences. What is that the sentences are rendering? What is the meaning of that particular sentence such that you can put it in the form of a pictorial representation? That is what is more important. Next, other language units. If you want to represent other languages, other concepts, you can do it in the form of diagram. So, while tending to make from text to diagram, information transfer from text to diagram, you have to remember these three elements, that is words, sentences and other language entities, which will help you to make your pictorial representation more better. But if you are not concentrating on these three things, it will be a problem. Your diagrams will not surely portray the information which you want to portray. So, concentrate on the words and their meanings and the sentences before you transfer the information from text to the diagram. Next, what kind of information transfer we generally have? We have two. One is diagram to text. So, we will be giving you a diagram. You have to understand, comprehend the diagram and convert into text. Then, text to diagram. The text will be given. You have to understand the words, the sentences, the time, the situation, the place, all the important requirements and try to change it into the form of diagram. So, we have two kinds of information transfer, that is from diagram to text and text to diagram. Now, information transfer is equivalent to data transmission, which highlights more practical technical aspects. Why is that we are talking about this topic when it comes to specially referring the engineering students? The data transfer, the information transfer is useful in data transfer, more specifically in developing your technical skills. It's not that when it comes to your technical skills, you cannot use more number of pages, lot of theory. You have to be practical enough to show it in the form of a concise text or a pictorial representation or a graphical representation, such that when you're presenting something, when you're presenting a PPT in front of your professional bodies, it will be more effective. It will leave an impact. The diagram will leave an impact. So, when it comes to especially the engineering students, you have to learn this technique of changing, transferring the text to the diagram. Now, sometimes transfer of information can help students learn more quickly or easily. How? Through tree diagrams, through flowcharts, through maps and plans, through tables, through graphs and pictograms. These are all the elements which will tend to grasp the attention of the reader and try to understand what is the information you are about to render to them, and also understand the importance through the stepwise and logical manner through these diagrams. Now, let us try to understand each type of text, each type of diagram from transferring from text to the diagram, such that you will be able to understand and use them. Where, how tree diagram is used, how the graphs are used. Let us talk about them in detail such that it will be helpful for you in the future presentations. Now, what is a tree diagram? It is a way of visually representing hierarchy in a tree-like structure. That is, you are going to say like this in the format of tree. You are going to mention like with the branches. Isn't it? A tree is a structure which leads to several branches and shows a stepwise development. isn't it? For example, if you're saying two types of information transfer, one is diagram to text, text to diagram. You can show it like this, isn't it? Then from under diagram to text, what are the elements you are going to do? And from text to diagram, what are the elements you are going to do? So you will be segregating the points in the way of branches when it comes to the tree diagram. Now, typically the structure of tree diagram consists of the elements such as root node, a member that has no superior or parent. That is, we are going to divide it in the form of the roots. Root nodes. These are called the root nodes. That is, we are going to segregate from one point to other, leading the connection with the other. So, in such way, we are going to represent the connection of a information of an element through different steps, segregating them into the logical order. That is what is your tree diagram represent. Now, what happens then? Then there are nodes which are linked together with the connections called branches that represent the relationships and connection between the members. As I already told you, the tree diagram will be changing, which will be tending into the roots, segregation of roots, and then the branches of those roots having the connection with each other. In that way, you can transform the text into a formal tree diagram such that it appeals and attracts the readers. Now, tree diagrams are often used. Where, when, how we are going to use these tree diagrams, let us know now. To show family relations and descent. That is, if you are going to show the family relations, father, mother, then the parents, the grandparents, uncles, aunts, the tree diagrams of the family. Okay. Next, in taxonomy, the practice of science of classification. When we do classification of our science topics, especially when it comes to taxonomy, we use these tree diagrams. Next, evolutionary science. From one stage to the other, how the science has been evolved. In such kind of topics, we generally use tree diagrams. Next, in computer science and mathematics, and in businesses and organization for managerial purpose. This is the most important thing which you have to keep in your mind. In future, you're going to stand on that professional platform which will give you only few minutes for your presentation. In that few minutes, you have to present your presentation which will attract, appeal, and also make others comprehend the information which you are transferring to them. So, in that case, you have to be very careful and try to understand the importance of this particular topic, transferring of information from text to the diagram. This will surely help you in making yourself presenting effective presentations such that it creates an impact on others to read your presentations. Now see, here is an example of tree diagram. What is this here? I am talking about musical instruments. This is the core. This is the main root word of our tree diagram representation. Now, then after that, from musical instruments, it has been divided into wind. It has been divided into percussion, then strings. Three forms of musical instruments we get. Then again, wind, they are played by air. Then percussion, played by banging and striking. Then string, played by moving strings. So we generally have how many? 3 kinds of musical instruments. Next, in wind, again it has been segregated into 2 branches. What is that? Woodwind, then others. Then this do not have any segregation because it has been stuck there with the banging and striking. It can be happened in any way. Then stringed. Again in string, it has been divided into 4 branches. What are those? Harp, guitar, violin and cello. Next come. Again woodwind is again segregated into 3 branches. What is that? Flute, clarinet and horn. Others, mouth organ and bagpipes. See, it is clearly here providing us information about the musical instruments. You are not reading here any text. You are not reading here any paragraph, but still you are able to understand how many kinds of musical instruments, how they are divided into, and what are the instruments which will be catering the needs of each musical instruments, such that they have been again segregated into different branches and different cores. In that way, it is very clear here about the information what we are providing. So, this is one of the example which will help you in understanding the tree diagram. Then we will move on to flow chart. Now, what is a flow chart? It is a type of diagram that represents workflow or process. To show the workflow or the process of any work that is represented in the flow chart. That means the process of your work mode, the segregation of your work stages can be done through the flow charts. Now, a flow chart can also be defined as diagrammatic representation of an algorithm, step-by-step approach or solving a task. When you are solving a task, you can put it in the flow charts such that it is representing the process of that particular problem solving elevation. So, flow charts are represented to show the work process, problem solving process of any kind of entity which you are choosing to represent it. Next, the flow chart shows the steps as boxes of various kinds and their order by connecting the boxes with arrows. So, like this, one after the other, it will be segregated through the boxes such that it is having connection with the above and moving into the further process. So, flow charts are generally represent like this. Now, here is a example of your flow chart. Now, see here we are representing the photosynthesis, the process of photosynthesis. Now, in what way it has been shown? Now, chlorophyll, here the leaf is the major entity through which the process is going to happen. Now, leaf has the chlorophyll, it traps light energy. So, what happens? It is taking in the carbon dioxide, it is taking the light from the sun, then it is taking the water, which give rise to given off into the air and converted into starch. So, it is taking in these three entities and giving out these two things. So, here we are representing the process of photosynthesis to show how it is happening and in what way it is happening. Then it is converted, one is going into the air, that is the oxygen, and the other it is converted into the starch, that is it stores food and turns iodine dark blue. So, this is the example of your flow chart. You will be segregating the flow chart into the form of the box and showing the process of its elevation to represent the proper information to a person in a logical and stepwise order. That is the representation of flow chart. So, wise use of flow charts will surely make your language delivery effective and your presentation more beautiful when it comes to your presentations. Now comes the maps and plans. How is that you are going to use your maps and plans? Maps are representations usually on plain surface of a part of earth, continents, countries, cities, or even they show outlines of areas. So, through mapping, we are not surely completely giving the graphical representation of the things present there, trees, houses, all those. We are going to show the outline of the map as there is the picture in the diagram. Here it is giving the outline of the process to where to move, how to move, what is the point you have to reach. So, generally this will help you instead of giving a oral signal, oral instructions to reach a place, we are giving a map line, outline of the map to reach that place in particular. So, in this way, maps and plans are used. Now, tables. I hope you can see these tables here. The example, tables are used to represent or classify the data into the more number of rows and the columns, such that it gives the importance or the number of ingredients, countable, uncountable. The formatting of the particular statistic analysis can be done through the tables. Now, it will represent data. What is that tables are going to do? They are going to represent the data in the very clear and specified manner. A table compiles all that data into columns and rows. Now, how is that we are going to segregate the data in a table? In the form of columns and the rows, so that it can be easily interpreted. So, this is one form of changing the text into the diagram. Next, graph. Yes, we usually see this, especially when it comes to technical and scientific advancement. We tend to measure the performance through graphs, isn't it? So, we have to learn this as the most important criteria in the professional development. Always we have to have a note of statistical analysis and the performance level of that particular project or entity which we are taking up. So, trying to learn and catering the needs of professionalism with the use of graphs and the tables is must. So, try to adapt this technique of using proper tables and proper graphical representations in your presentations, such that they will be very, very useful to you in your professional growth. Now, let us see what is a graph. It can be defined as pictorial representation or a diagram that represents data or values in an organized manner. It shows the level of the performance. It shows the level of the data which is segregated or used in that particular time bin. Now, here favorite type movies. For example, I took this one. Now, here I took the other elements. On the right side horizontal way, we have taken the element. So, we are here going to show the level of favorite type of movies. Whether you like more Hindi movies, comedies, humors. So, I have kept all these things to the downward to show you the level of like I have towards this kind of movies. Here, this is only one example which I have showed you, but in technical terms, this will be very, very useful to you. Graphical representation must be learnt through all the professionals. It is very, very important in your professional growth. Now comes pictogram. What is a pictogram? Pictogram is a pictograph or a chart or a graph which uses pictures to represent data. Mostly we see this in the junior kindergarten sessions. We tend to see this mostly. We are habituated, isn't it? There is the pictorial representation of the things. For that, we have to write our understanding, comprehend the understanding. For example, here you see, here we have given 1, 2, 3 bananas. What is that you are going to write? How many bananas? 3. Then 2 strawberries. 1, 2. So this is the pictorial representation of understanding the numbers, isn't it? Again, here you see. Here people, spoon and the cycle. This is first aid kit. Put the dustbin in the... Here, are we talking about any text? Are we giving any information in the text format? No. Through pictures, we are saying... We are talking and giving them the information about what the things are happening. Our traffic signals, they are also the pictorial representation of the thing. What we are going to do on the road, how we are going to maintain the rules on the road. So, this is also one of the major entity which you have to learn from it. Now, what are the uses from transferring the text to diagram? What are the uses? This kind of representation of data is one of the vital aspects in the reports and proposals. Always remember, when you submit your research proposals, when you submit your reports or any kind of articles, try to include the statistical data or the evidence or the proof in the form of a small diagram or pictorial representation or a flow chart or a table, such that it grasps the attention of the reader and try to understand what is happening in the text, what kind of information you have provided for the readers. Non-verbal items are specially meant to convert the data into the diagrammatic form. So, we are going to show or portray the non-verbal communication. In non-verbal communication, diagrammatic representation plays vital role. So, it is one of the effective strategy which can help and develop your non-verbal communication. Next, it is especially in the context of narration. Narration is when you are describing the event or a story, anything. Then physical and process description of any invention, idea. Next, listing. When you are listing, you can use the tables. Classifying, comparison, contrast. So, all these things can be represented in the form of diagrams such that it can be appealing and also advisable for the people who are reading. Next, what are the advantages of graphical representation? In what way they are going to fetch the needs of your professionalism? Let us see now. Quick viewing of large amount of data. If you are putting something in the form of text, it takes lot of time to that person to read and then understand. But if you are putting it in the form of a picture, it takes less time. Okay. Next, more accuracy of data is possible through graph. More accuracy. That means you will focus on the accuracy of that particular data at that particular time. Your intention will not go or it will not move from the box or far from the information. It directly specifies the information what it is going to render it to you. Next, comparison, contrast and division can be done in one go. Instead of making it paragraphs and paragraph, comparing this with the other, it takes a lot of time. So, if you are putting it in the form of a table, it will become easy. Next, more effective than written text. So, many people, they feel that reading text is tedious. It is boring. So, maybe this visual representation will help them to grasp attention towards the text. Next, stimulates quick analytical approach to huge text. That is, quick approach. Quickly, we can have an overview of the information what is projected and try to understand, analyze and interpret the events. So, these are all the advantages which will help you to transfer data from text to diagram. Now when it comes to the second part. Text to, now let us see an example from text to diagram. What is there? Here there is a text. I have given it in the form of a paragraph. How is that you are going to convert it into the diagram? Which is more appealing? Would you like to read this at once? Are you feeling bored to read this? Can you read it with lots of interest? Is it appealing to your eyes? Maybe, may not be. Depends on your interest. But see the next thing. Here it is. This is the representation of the butterfly life cycle. Same way, here I have written it in the form of the text. But your eyes are not so interesting. You know, you're not feeling so interested to read about it. You're feeling bored. But when I show you this, you will at least try to understand what is happening. What is this picture? What is the things happening here? What is the process? Isn't it? It is trying to grasp your attention through the visual aids. Through the visual aid of a butterfly, the leaf, the larva, the arrows in blue color and the green color. Isn't it appealing? So, in this way, when you are transferring from text to a diagram, that will make you understand the things more effectively and also creates an interest to the reader. Now, what is that we are going to conclude? Using models and diagrams is a very useful and effective tool. So, representing information and system in graphical form communicate and understand them better. So, when you are changing from text to diagram, it will communicate and it will try to make others understand the events or the situations what are happening. And when it is important, you can also convert the diagram into the text and form some sentences. That is also a technique. Don't completely use diagrams. Sometimes it is needed to change from diagram to text to show that your language skill, to improve the status quo of that particular communication. It is important to you to change the text from the diagram. Both the techniques are very, very useful to you. Try to adapt the means such that when you are doing your presentation, it creates an impact. It will stay there for long time. Your information, whatever is provided, will remain in the minds of the people who are listening to it. So, these two important elements, that is information transfer, especially from text to diagram or diagram to text, you have to learn and try to make a habit of using, especially when it comes to your examinations also. If there is shortage of time, if you feel that the time is very limited and I'm unable to write all the content which is very needed, try to make it in the form of a graphical representation, pictorial representation. Try to add some table, flow charts, so that at least you are providing the information. At least the examiner is able to understand that you know what it is. Due to shortage of time, at least you are able to portray it in the form of a pictorial representation. That will fetch you marks. So try to inculcate this habit of changing the text to diagram and diagram to text. It will be very, very useful to you, not only in your academics, but also in the development of your professional growth. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.